Captain Marvel is the first movie in the MCU that I didn't actually see in theater. No, it wasn't because I didn't want to see it, it was because I didn't really have the funds to see it until it came to digital, and here it is on digital, so what do I expect to see out of it? I'm not sure. I didn't know too much about Captain Marvel. I knew I wanted to see it because of the end of Infinity War, but I knew next to nothing about the character in general. I don't really read comic books that much, so I went into this movie pretty blind, and how was it? Well, let's get into it. Looking at the people category, I can pretty much say I like the character of Captain Marvel. I'm not in love with her. I like what she stands for. I like her abilities and things like that. I like the concept. I'm not entirely sure if I love the execution with how she played the character or not, though. The acting itself was kind of subpar. Nothing was terrible about it, but it was what I like to call cinematically monotonous. It was basically the same from beginning to end. Basically, this entire category is stuff that could have been a little bit better, but just wasn't, and it was just like 13 out of 20 possible stars. I had some issues when it came down to the writing category specifically, the story, the narrative. I made a video that you can see here on the right that goes into why it was a problem for me, so you could check that out. But in general, when looking at the writing as a whole, we're also looking at other things like dialogue, and Nick Fury does have a few lines in here that I really enjoyed. I'll be honest though, I was very confused for the most part of where this movie was even going, and that's because it has a lot of false narrative. She has amnesia, so with amnesia, there's a lot of aimless directions it can go, and ultimately does go. I do consider it pretty original. I wouldn't say it's as entertaining as like Guardians of the Galaxy or anything like that as far as originality goes, but it does feel like it's somewhat original. It's something that I haven't really seen before, and it was interesting to watch. Writing category gets 8 out of 10. When it comes down to behind the scenes, there are some critics that'll point out that the visuals aren't as pretty as the movie probably wants them to be, and I might agree a little bit on that, but at the same time, there's also a ton of visual effects going on that are actually impressive, like CGI de-aging for Samuel L. Jackson is incredible. I don't think the cinematography was always there, the camera work. It never really impressed me or surprised me in any real way. I think the editing was done really well. I think that there was a lot of action going on that needed good editing, and that's mostly what we got here. I feel like it was as advertised, but nothing about the music stood out for me. Nothing that I thought was really great. No theme music where I was like, oh, this is really cool. Nothing like that, so that's just kind of blah. 8 out of 10 possible stars for BTS. The narrative arc, for the most part, when it comes down to basics, was done very well. There is a good introduction to who Captain Marvel is, who she's working with, the world around them, what's happening. The inciting incident, something happens near the beginning that actually sets off a chain of reactions for everything else. I can't really get into it because that would be spoiler territory, but it is there. There's full points there. The obstacles, for the most part, there's one main obstacle. Captain Marvel has to figure out what's going on in her head. There's just a lot of randomness and she has to sort it through. Good climax, good culminating event by the end, and a calming down and a new sense of norm by the end. So yeah, so the whole narrative arc is pretty good. 9 out of 10 possible stars. Why do we watch superhero movies? To be entertained. So is it entertaining? Yeah. You know, I had a good time with this movie and it makes me want to rewatch it. And because the movie is so complicated when it comes down to the narrative, you're not entirely sure what's going on, but you know, or at least you feel like something's gonna happen that you can't miss because it's gonna give you some clarity on all the hoopla that's going on in the movie. And I would not mind owning it. 7 out of 10 possible stars for entertainment. Specialty category. What do you expect to find out of Captain Marvel? For me, I'm a big fan of the MCU. I want it to feel like it belongs in the universe. Having already seen Endgame, I feel like it belongs in the universe because Captain Marvel is there. I also feel like it'll play a vital role in the future phases of the MCU. However, in general, it doesn't really feel so much like it fits into that same universe. Something about it doesn't click well, something about it doesn't feel so much like MCU. For that reason, I'm giving this 5 out of 10 possible stars. I'm actually a fan of Brie Larson. I haven't seen her in a million things, but I do like her whenever I see her. So if a discussion were to come up about Brie Larson, what would I think? I would honestly probably think about Captain Marvel because that's what she's currently known for. 10 out of 10. As far as action goes, you expect a lot of action out of a movie like this. The action is good. It's very, very good. However, it's a little bit diluted with the narrative. 5 out of 10. halfway decent. Did they make the movie they intended to make from the get-go? I guess so. I mean, the confusion probably wasn't what they were going for, but for the most part, it feels like a movie that a filmmaker was trying to do and succeeded at doing. So I'm gonna give this 10 out of 10 possible stars. Special category gets 30 out of 40 possible stars. Once we add up all these stars together, we get 75 out of 100 possible stars. That's 75%, which is pretty average. Guys, tell me what you thought of Captain Marvel in the comments down below, and for YouTube, you know you can subscribe to me, hit that like button, and hit that bell to be notified when I come out with my next review. And until then, peace out.